Well, I can do it either way.
Let's go here.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you take care of it. You know what, I just need
Beating up back here. You see that? She's good at that.
Ready for cheer? Ready for cheer? Okay, I got catalogs for you. No one passing to me, I'm passing to you.
They were looking at the set. The projector. What? Yeah, they were came underneath the projector.
When you go up, I'll meet you.
Understand that?
Weird. Cheers. Kevin there, so we might as well just start, right? That's crazy. Life is that way.
I've seen it on TV Guide.
They need a volunteer that don't volunteer.
Got the 50 days on it, so
Yeah.
ready to retire.
Not with me, right?
Yes.
Good evening. Would you all please stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Rogers, please.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day, for the blessings you give it to each and every one of us here tonight. We pray tonight that you'll be with us and guide us as we go about the business of the city. We continue to pray for veterans abroad. Be with them, guide them, protect them, help them to return home safely. These things we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Davis of Burgess and Nyepel. I've been asked to come and do a presentation on the stormwater management program. We do have sign-in sheets, and so I don't know, Lori, you want to start those around people. This is a requirement through DEP, so it'd be helpful if you guys could all sign in so we make sure we have a record of who all is here. The purpose of tonight's meeting is really twofold. First is, to give you guys, we've not been to council, I think, for 7 years to give this presentation. We've been doing it through the board. To give you just an idea, I gotta stand here so everyone can hear me. To give you guys just an idea of what's going on, this is a requirement through DEP. And the second of all, annually we come out and we ask for comments from everyone here. Make sure that we're doing, there's probably ideas everyone has of how to make the program better. That's what we're looking for tonight. Is anything that anyone has that could help us make decisions on stormwater. First of all, what you'll hear a lot about tonight is MS4, and what MS4 is a municipal separate storm sewer system. What that means is, in front of your house you have 2 pipes. One's a sanitary sewer. You flush your commodes, it goes down, makes it to 12th Street, and it's pumped to Parkersburg for treatment. Then you have a storm pipe, and that storm pipe, it takes catch basins, yard drains, takes that and goes directly to, for most people, Pond Run or the river. And kind of hard to see. I was hoping it would show up a little bit better, but US EPA gives this kind of a little diagram to show what kind of systems there are. The separate sewer system shown on the left. Kind of hard to see. That's a gray line that comes out. It shows the sanitary sewer. Again, comes through either industrial waste, waste from your house, comes down, eventually makes it to a treatment plant where it's treated, ends up in the river. The storm, whether it be catch basins, any kind of footer drains, sump pumps, that go straight into the river without any treatment. The other kind, which is on the right, is a combined sewer system, which a lot of communities around here are, but fortunately we're not, and that is just one pipe for everything. Water comes down normally, goes to the treatment plants, and during storm events, too much flow comes down, some's discharged without treatment. So, many years ago, the EPA said, we got to clean up the rivers, the streams, and they started, kind of right to left, they started looking at the treatment plants and gave requirements for them, effluent limits to meet, moved on. The next one, combined sewers, that started in 80s, 90s to try to get that taken care of. And more recently, the point source for stormwater. And that's really what we're talking about tonight. What is the MS4 program? Well, what it is water quality. It is not quantity. Now, it's not saying the city, of course, is unconcerned about quantity, but as far as reporting to DEP, what they're really after is in the pipe, making sure it's clean. And how does DEP regulate us? Well, it's through the NPDES permit program, no different than a treatment plant. You have a permit. It's actually a general permit for stormwater. The first one was made in 2003. It's been updated twice since, and actually will come up again next year. And what is the program? There's 6 minimum control measures. I won't go over them now because I'm going to talk about each of them in detail in a second, but kind of look at them, kind of group them together. The first two are really what we're talking about tonight, is getting out to the public, getting comments, working with the public. The third one, the illicit discharge, that's actually finding issues, correcting them. The last one, the next two are for construction, with the last one being municipal operations. For the public education and outreach, I think everyone's probably seen the stormwater brochures that the city passes out or has available. Again, we try to get those out to people to kind of just teach them what the issues with stormwater are. We also have a page on the city's website. I'm hoping everyone goes to the website, a lot of good information. There's a separate page just for stormwater, and it has annual reports and has the program on there. And then participate in a social event, whether it be the ice cream social. I think last year was Kids Fest. Don't know where it'll be this year, but we always want to make sure we're at least at one. Public involvement and participation. The pet waste cleanup at the dog park. You probably see, if anyone ever goes there, has seen the bags, and just a good idea to clean up after your pets. Our Senko's River Sweep program, that's giving out bags. People actually go out and clean up the river. One of the neat things we do is pass out, there's a poster contest that goes with it, and it's probably been 6 years ago that someone from Vienna actually won it. It was a $500 scholarship, I think, so just a nice program for the kids. This is one of them. Comments on the stormwater management program, that's what we're here tonight for. And then any local cleanup and recycling program. Make sure we advertise for that. Illicit discharge detection elimination. One of the things, city just does a great job as their stormwater mapping. I don't think there's probably many communities in the state that has the level of detail. What you're looking at, if you can kind of see the blue line there is Pond Run, and each of those little red marks that, if you can see them, are outfalls. So they can go out at any time and look and see what's happening with them. The screening of dry water outfalls, stormwater system outfalls for dry weather discharges, that's just going out and physically looking, September, October, when there's very little rain, there's water coming out, there's an issue somewhere. It's tracking that down and seeing what's causing it. You'll see this a lot of them, staff training, making sure it's not only are the guys from Public Works looking for this, but anyone that works for the city, if they're out and notice something, make sure to call it in. Certification of landscape businesses, again, that's goes through Public Works, and anyone, landscape businesses, as far as getting grass in the streets, getting fertilizer or anything, stuff we want to keep away from. There's a little class that they have to take to be able to work within inside the city. And then contact information, making sure that if you do find something, it's calling it in to the city so something can be done about it. Construction site runoff, starting off with site inspection, of course, just a good idea to do that at any time. Another training, make sure that training is not only for the city people, for any contractors that will be working and putting this, the erosion and sedimentation control in. City site plan review, again, it's probably the first step of any projects is making sure that what we're doing is at the beginning we have the stormwater taken care of. And then best management practice design information, again, that comes right from DEP. For the redevelopments or new developments, reference requirements, again, another DEP requirement that they make us do. Post-observation, once something gets put in as far as a control measure, eventually they're going to fail, so we want to go out and look at them and make sure that we know, to be able to tell the owner when that needs fixed or replaced. And then again, trading. Like I said, you'll see that on a lot. Pollution prevention for the municipal operation starts with street sweeping. Again, a lot of this is just kind of common sense things, but get stuff off the street before it can make it into the storm system. Catch basin cleaning, not only does this help with cleaning the water, but also if you get it clean, it gives more capacity for storm drainage. Then the next two really go together, the stormwater pollution prevention plan for city-owned property. That's just making sure that the garages are kept clean. And how does the city address MS4? First of all, through the stormwater ordinance. It was originally done in 2010, just recently updated in December 2016. There's also a site registration that you have to do every 5 years, and then every year we do an annual report, and those are located on the stormwater page. I just want to go through a couple case studies. Even though we're saying that we're going through and fixing water quality, there are projects we've done that not only address the quality but also the quantity. I think the biggest one is the 40th Street improvements. This is 40th Street between 9th and 10th Avenue, I believe. Used to have a lot of people come to the board meetings with issues with stormwater, and it's kind of hard to see, I know, but each of those houses have water standing in them. This was after a fairly big storm event. We went in and put in catch basins in the middle of the streets, paved the streets, and then beside the catch basins we put in water storage basins that had no bottoms, just gravel bottoms, so that flow could go and infiltrate into the soils. And then also we put pipes in between. That way, again, any water that got in, and the pipes were perforated, so any water that got in had a chance to escape. We didn't put any kind of a pump station in there. Beginning to just see how it works. It's been in, I think, 5 years and had no issues. I went out. This is right after the flooding happened, and took some pictures. And again, I know it's kind of hard to see that far away, but those issues, are gone. No puddling or major puddling, and again, no lift station. Other examples, one's right outside. Let's say a rain garden that was put in by the city, again, several years ago, and also very similar over at 60th Street. So these, again, are quality barriers, and really, for the most part, I think, take care of a lot of the excess stormwater. If it's allowed to go in the ground, it's not getting on the streets, it's not affecting flooding. So it's a good way just to keep from not only water quality, but the quantity goes down also. And I'm almost done. So, any additional information, the websites, again, it's just the normal city websites. The stormwater hotline, again, is the Public Works number. You can get those numbers again off the website. And with that, I'm kind of finished. So, any questions or comments?
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in September 2015, we had that huge algae bloom in the Ohio River. You recall?
Yes.
My understanding is the source of that was primarily fertilizer runoff. And I don't know if that's within the scope of what you're aware of, but it made the river inaccessible. I mean,
Correct.
we had advisories. If your pet went in the water, it was a serious situation. The river's basically closed.
Right.
What within our city or upriver are the sources of that, and what's being done about that under the NIBIDI permits and Clean Water Act that would protect us from that event reoccurring?
Well, the hardest things to do is, we talk, point sources. We talk about that. A physical pipe that goes into the river, is one thing. And we have gone through. EPA has really hit all the municipals very hard. They're going into now, a lot of what's happening with algal blooms, a lot of ammonia, a lot of nitrogen, a lot of phosphorus, and that's really the issue. Where it's coming mainly from is farming, and it's hard. Yes.
Point source regulation.
Correct. And it's, and how the government's working is really working with the farmers and trying to get them to back off. But, where the communities come in, and really it's the CSO communities, is trying to get that water out. Now, you'll see, I know Vienna doesn't really treat, but when you get to Parkersburg and you're going to start seeing, ammonia limits is the first thing will go, then total nitrogen, and then phosphorus. Each of those, it doesn't help to have that in there, but it's such a small quantity compared to the fertilizers that go into the farms. So really, it's working with the farmers. I don't think anyone, of course, wants to damage farmers, but it's working together with them and showing them, hey, one of the problems is there's too much fertilizer being put in. So if they could just work on that, barriers, that's another big one that they've been working on, is just vegetative barrier between the farm and the river. So it's those kinds of things. It's trying to work together. Is again not a hardship on the farmer, but trying to get them to play along with the rest of us that do have these requirements.
And that's not necessarily a big issue in Vienna, correct? I mean, we don't
Right.
have that kind of watershed going on. Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mike?
I got one.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
What's
Jim.
EPA doing about the calcium chloride that's put on these state highways and city highways in wintertime, gets ice off the highways? What's happening to it? It runs into the ditches, runs into the catch basin, runs in the high river. Now, is that good for the peeps and
No.
drinking?
No, it's not. And in fact, no different than you, Department of Highways is a MS4. They have their own permit. They have their own requirements. They address it. They try to address it. And again, it's a fine line you walk between safety and the environment. It's try to work.
Well, drinking water comes out of the high river, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mike? Mike, thank you very much for taking the time. Craig, thank you for coming with him tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Jack Mathers.
Yeah, I'll get out of the way.
I just wanted to take the time to mention that April the 5th at 6:30 is when we're having the get together up at the senior center for the Trees in the Law workshop. Russell's going to get city attorney to answer questions, and we're also going to have insurance agent Chuck Knopfsinger is going to be there. One of the things that happens over the course of the last year is get several telephone calls from people concerned about trees, maybe on their neighbor's property, or issues with neighbor's trees, ranging from everything from walnuts falling off their neighbor tree to what can they do about it. I've had people call that say they simply can't afford an attorney, to ask questions, and they've got serious issues. So talked it over and thought it might be a good idea if we could put a workshop together for free where people could come and get information. So that's what this is going to attempt to do. It's going to be open to the public. April the 5th, 6:30 at the Senior Center. State of West Virginia, they're not aware of any of these workshops going on like this. So some of the foresters from there were talking about trying to come up and attend to see what they can learn. And maybe it could be done in other communities also. But so then the other thing is, that's great. April the 13th, we'll also be doing Arbor Day, and that meeting's at 10 o'clock up at Jackson Park at the community buildings where everybody's going to meet for that. So that's just two things that I really wanted to mention tonight. So.
I have a proclamation that I would like to read for Arbor Day. Jack is our city forester. And whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate our temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, I, Randall C. Rapp, Mayor of the City of Vienna, do hereby proclaim April the 13th as Arbor Day in the City of Vienna, and encourage all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant and care for trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of this and future generations of Vienna citizens. Before we actually go into our agenda for this evening, something came up late in the week, and so at this time I would like to ask Norm Harris to please come up. For you all that don't know Norm, Norm has been our Parks Director for 27 years? 22. And he sent word this week that he is retiring. So April the 3rd will be Norm's last day, and we did not have an opportunity to wait for another council meeting because he would be gone. And so I'd like to read this and give this to you. It's a certificate of appreciation made out to Norm Harris in grateful recognition of your dedication and service to the city of Vienna upon your retirement. I don't think any of us are going to realize how much Norm's meant to the city of Vienna until he's gone. Because for so many years, he's ran our Pee Wee football programs. He's taken care of so many kids, thousands of kids. And instrumental in getting the dog parks together. He was, literally he's an expert in park equipment and dogs, and he was our animal warden for years. And we'll miss you, Norm. It's going to be a big hole, and I don't know who we're going to get to fill your big shoes, but at any rate, thank you very much. Regular session of the Vienna City Council for March the 22nd, 2018. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll. All members of council are present. Having a quorum, we will proceed. The minutes from the special council meeting held on March the 15th have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. Report of the treasurer.
Thank you,
Councilman
Mayor.
Leach.
Finance Director Amy Roberts has provided me reconciliation of funds dated March 22nd, 2018. The accounts are current and the city is financially sound.
Thank you. We have no unfinished business this evening, so we'll move right into new business. Mr. Henry Sasson has requested to speak this evening.
Okay, I was going to talk a few weeks ago, but I had a family medical thing to deal with. I need one of those copies. And I couldn't be here, so... Okay, so Kathy went ahead and rescheduled it for me. Okay, cool, thanks. What this looks at is... I've been working in the chemical industry. It'll be 30 years behind me in June. And with that, this is our healthcare program that we have at our company. We're a $3.2 billion company. We've got facilities all over the world. And what we have here on the top line that I passed out is there's two health savings account programs. One's the Consumer Choice 250, which is the top, and the 500, which is on the bottom. It also breaks things down if you're an employee, how much you pay if it's just the employee plus spouse or domestic partner, and then if it's the employee plus the children, and employee plus the entire family. And it's broken down into your salary buckets. From this, if you have a spouse that is working, and that spouse wants to be on your insurance, then based on your salary, each monthly bucket, you have to pay an extra amount into your healthcare costs for deduction. What we have here is if you're a non-smoker or non-tobacco user, I should say, there's a $50 reduction off of that number. Vision care is included in this. Going through critical illness insurance is included in this. If you're in a 250 program, the company will match on an individual for $250 into your health savings account, $500 for a family. If you're in a Consumer Choice 500, the company matches $500 into your account, $1,000 for the family. So that has changed from the traditional PPO that a lot of people are accustomed to. Going through the years, our carriers have changed, our packages have changed, our premiums have changed every year. I can't remember a year over a 30-year period that our numbers haven't gone up. Going through on the second page of the handout, it shows that we have a dental plan, your basic dental plan, which is a PPO. You've got the basic coverage, but not orthodontia. If you go to the high dental PPO, that covers your orthodontics for your kids up to the age of 19. Down below that in that table, you'll see the dental contributions, same breakdown of an employee or spouse, employee plus children, and employee plus a family. So that is broken down into monthly buckets, and that there doesn't depend on your salary, that's just a piece. The other piece of the puzzle on page 3 talks about medicine, I should say. If you get retail 30-day supply or mail order, we go through Express Scripts. It breaks down 80-20 on how things get taken care of. Our medical costs for medicines get lumped into your deductible. So if you're in a Consumer Choice 250, it's $3,500 for an individual deduction, $7,000 for a family. And then the other things that get covered, you can pay extra for if you want disability coverage, life insurance and accidental death, supplemental, limited purpose, and also there's voluntary stuff that you can do, get additional critical illness, you got a group accident insurance, and also legal services. So going through, the city has paid the same premium for 20 years, it was stated. How that's possible, it's hard to believe. We're a company of $3.2 billion over the 30-year period. Our rates and premiums have gone up year in, year out. We have a lot more employees than the city of Vienna, and I just figured that I'd share this with you guys. So as you're looking to say, what are you going to do in the future, and you can't do it all at once because it's a big mountain to swallow. Perhaps over a 3 to 5 year period that you face something in where the premiums get passed on. Now the thing from us is our premiums went up, our salaries didn't go up, so there's salary compression, but that's how the real world works. Thank you. Any questions, by the way? Okay, if you guys want or ask for anything, our HR people are more than willing to speak with anybody if they have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Donnermaker, you're going to pass tonight? Okay. Third item on our agenda this evening is the resolution to appoint 2 members to the Board of Zoning Appeals. We lost 2 members of our Zoning Appeals Board. They both moved out of town, so we're tonight going to appoint 2 new members to the Board of Zoning Appeals, so we'll have back to 5 members. The two people that are being nominated tonight are Bobby Lancaster and Gail Gaines. They both have extensive real estate experience and will fit very well with the other 3 members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then we will have a full 5-member board to handle issues as they come up. The resolution before the City Council is the appointment of members to the City of Vienna Board of Zoning Appeals. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that the following individuals are hereby appointed to the City of Vienna Board of Zoning Appeals, each for a full and regular term. Bobby Lancaster and Gail Gaines. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the appointment of these two women to our Board of Zoning Appeals.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we appoint Bobby Lancaster and Gail Gaines to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All in favor of appointing Bobby Lancaster and Gail Gaines to the Board of Zoning Appeals, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda this evening is it's a resolution authorizing the retirement of a K-9 officer and transfer of ownership to Officer Zachary Shad. Chief Pfeiffer, would you come up, please? And
Just want to say a couple things here before council, members of our audience. A couple weeks ago, Officer Shad announced that he would be seeking another career field. So his resignation will be effective here next month, and as you all can see, and maybe have known before, he has a partner here with him. So Zach was employed with Vienna Police Department for a time, and then went to the Wood County Sheriff's Office, and then came back. And while he was with the Wood County Sheriff's Office, he got DARA in 2013. In 2015, he came back, and DARA's been here ever since, and Zach as well. So DARA, the K-9, has performed most excellent here with their work with the Vienna Police Department. And when a K-9 retires, there's some things that you need to consider, and first and foremost, what's in the dog's best interest. And I think in this case, it is in the dog's best interest that her ownership be transferred to Zach. The working expectancy of a police K-9 is roughly between 5 to 9 years. So Dara's she's going to be 8 years old, and she served, we're right at the beginning of that spectrum. So when we were considering this, you know, if you do end up transferring a K-9 to a new handler, sometimes the dogs have issues taking to a new handler, and then we'd have to train another K-9 handler, which is substantial. So we're not going to elect to do that. Zach is a family man. He's married with 3 kids, and I understand there's going to be 4 here shortly. And many of you are dog owners in the audience, and you know what kind of a bond you have with your dogs, and that's no different here, and even stronger. So a little bit about Dara. She was born in Slovakia in 2010, so she's just going to be reaching her 8th birthday. So in dog years, that's, I think, 56 coming up. So hopefully when we're 56, I can retire anyway. So Dara's certified in criminal apprehension, building and article searches, tracking, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and meth. So Dara has made numerous drug finds for us. Zach has worked, and Dara worked very well with other agencies, Parkersburg Police, Williamstown, Wood County Sheriff's Office, the state police, and in Wood County, law enforcement plays very well together. So we try to stagger when our canines are out to assist other agencies, and they do as well. So we really appreciate Dara's work, and Zach, yours as well. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. So thank you. So now we have a resolution here to present.
Would you read the resolution, please?
Resolution authorizing the retirement of K-9 officer and transfer of ownership to Officer Zachary Shad. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it does hereby authorize the transfer of ownership of Vienna Police K-9 officer Dara to her handler, Zachary Shad, as is set out below. Whereas Officer Shad has resigned his position as a police officer for the City of Vienna effective April 16th, 2018. And whereas he is a K-9 handler for the Vienna Police Department assigned K-9 officer Dara. And whereas the City of Vienna owns a police dog named Dara, and whereas the City of Vienna has decided to retire K-9 officer Dara from active duty in its police department, also effective April 16, 2018. Because at 8 years old and considering her breed, Officer Dara only has approximately 2 more years of serviceable duty remaining. And whereas the City of Vienna, upon the recommendation of Chief M.A. Pfeiffer, has considered, number 1, the cost of training another canine handler to work with Officer Dara, number 2, the strong possibility that said training could fail and the animal would not bond with the new handler. Number 3, the remaining active working lifespan of the dog. Number 4, the cost of training an officer to work with a new canine officer who has a much longer potential working life and has determined that it is not cost effective to continue to require Canine Officer Dara to serve with a new handler. As such, as of her retirement date, and because she will not be assigned to a new handler, we will no longer be able to perform her duties. And whereas pursuant to West Virginia Code 19-20-25, retirement, transfer, or disposal of state-owned dogs and horses, the city may authorize the transfer of ownership of service animals no longer able to perform their duties as service animals to the animal's handler, and whereas the officer with whom the dog was trained to work, Officer Zachary Shad of the City of Vienna Police Department, has bonded with and wishes to continue the care for the dog. And whereas the dog does not have commercial value if sold by itself once decommissioned, or if it cannot be paired with a new handler. And whereas the City of Vienna wishes to give the dog to Officer Zachary Shad. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby authorize giving Canine Officer Dara to Police Officer Zachary Shad, subject to Officer Shad agreeing to certain conditions, namely, that Canine Officer Dara will be retired from any law enforcement or law enforcement related activities, that she will serve the private purpose of being a domestic pet and will not be used for public or private police or investigative purposes, and Officer Shad will be fully responsible for the care, maintenance, and any liability arising from the dog, and will agree to indemnify the city of any future claims resulting from or caused by the dog beginning at the end of Canine Officer Dara's shift on April 16, 2018. Further, Officer Shad will be required to acknowledge that retired Canine Officer Dara is a good girl, at least one time a week. Resolved that the city clerk is hereby authorized to execute an agreement of transfer containing these conditions and a receipt to effectuate the transfer. So we are real happy for Officer Shad. We're real sad for Officer Dara that she's leaving us. She's a really good dog.
We got a little, gift bag.
I do
think
have
for Dara.
a gift.
Excuse me, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
All those in favor of the resolution?
Before we give her a gift.
That'd be
Yeah.
good.
You know, get the.
Dara, in transferring ownership to Zachary Shad, please signify by raising your right hand.
Did we do the motion?
We did.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. We need to do the motion in a
We need a
second.
motion.
So moved.
Second.
There we go. It's been moved
Now
and second.
again.
All those in favor of the transfer and retirement? All those opposed, same sign.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your service and good luck with your new endeavors. It's great. Thank you.
Snacks are for the dog.
Right, yeah.
Kathy, you need to get in that picture there.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
There's a nice dog in front of us.
Yeah, you might want to move, reposition the bones.
I think she smells it.
Yeah.
She's very pretty.
while we have Chief Pfeiffer up front, I'd like you all to give him a round of applause. This week, Chief Mike Pfeiffer and Officer Scotty Hughes both celebrated 20 years with the Vienna Police Department.
In dog years, that'd be 6 points. Maybe a little. Thank you. Thanks, Zach.
Does Dara get a pension?
All the dog bones you can eat. The last item on our agenda this evening is a resolution authorizing the city of Vienna to join the opioid litigation. You all are probably aware that the city of Parkersburg and Wood County have already joined it. And I'm not sure about Williamstown, but I believe they have also. I have a resolution. I went to the training or the presentations that the law firms made at the county, and I believe that based on the information that I heard that day, and Mr. Leach was also there, that this is something that the city of Vienna should be included in. This opioid epidemic, it's affecting every family, every community in our valley, and so I'd like to read this resolution. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna as follows. Whereas the unlawful distribution of prescription-controlled substances has created a public nuisance and a serious public health and safety crisis for the citizens of the City of Vienna. And whereas the City of Vienna is the policy determining body, whereas the Vienna City Council is the policy determining body of the city, and whereas the City of Vienna has the authority to take action to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the City of Vienna, and whereas there exists a serious public health and safety crisis involving opioid abuse, addiction, morbidity, and mortality in the City of Vienna, and whereas the diversion of legally produced controlled substances into the illicit market causes or contributes to the serious public health and safety crisis involving opioid abuse, addiction, morbidity, and mortality in the City of Vienna. And whereas the violation of any laws of West Virginia or the United States of America controlling the distribution of a controlled substance is inimical, harmful, and adverse to the public welfare of the citizens of the City of Vienna and constitutes a public nuisance. And whereas the City of Vienna has the authority to abate or cause to be abated any public nuisance, including those acts that significantly interfere with the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Vienna. And relative to the passage of this resolution, were taken in an open meeting of City Council, and that all deliberations of this council, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken. Does that sound right, doesn't it?
No. I mean, I know it's long.
Who wrote that? You did. Gene.
To be fair, I cribbed a lot of it.
Thank you so much. Whereas the City of Vienna has the authority to abate or cause to be abated any public nuisance, including those acts that significantly interfere with the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the City of Vienna. And whereas the City of Vienna has expended, is expending, and will continue to expend in the future city public funds to respond to the serious public health and safety crisis involving opioid abuse, addiction, morbidity, and mortality in the City of Vienna. And whereas the City of Vienna may sue to obtain any money due the city, and whereas the City of Vienna has received information that indicates that the manufacturers and wholesale distributors of controlled substances in the City of Vienna may have violated federal laws and regulations that were enacted to prevent the diversion of legally produced controlled substances into the illicit market, and whereas the City of Vienna will benefit from the retention of special outside counsel to investigate and pursue, if appropriate, claims against the manufacturer and wholesale distributors of controlled substances in the City of Vienna on a contingent fee basis, wherein there is no attorney fees if there is no recovery, and the city shall not be responsible for the cost of litigation regardless of the outcome of any litigation. And now therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna, Wood County, West Virginia, unanimously concurring as follows. Section 1, that the City of Vienna hereby declares that opioid abuse, addiction, morbidity, and mortality has created a serious public health and safety crisis in the City of Vienna, West Virginia, and is a public nuisance. And Section 2, that the Common Council of the City of Vienna hereby authorizes the mayor, with the assistance of the Vienna City Attorney, to retain qualified special counsel to represent the City of Vienna, to investigate, and if appropriate, pursue all civil remedies which may be afforded under law as against the manufacturers and wholesale distributors in the chain of distribution of controlled substances who have caused or contributed to the public nuisance and serious public health and safety crisis involving opioid abuse, addiction, morbidity, and mortality in the City of Vienna. With the compensation, therefore, on a contingent fee basis, said agreement to be brought before council for its further and final approval. Section 3, that the City of Vienna hereby unanimously finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of City Council, and all deliberations of this council, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with all applicable legal requirements, including Section 8, subsection 12-5, paragraph 23 of the West Virginia Code. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution authorizing the City of Vienna to join the opioid litigation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution authorizing the city to join the opioid litigation. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Renat, what initial, is there a cost for this? What's the cost of just joining? Nothing at all?
Nothing.
Okay.
It's all contingency. If they win, they get a percentage.
Okay, then if we do win, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's what you're approving.
Okay.
You're approving the contingency fee. That way we're protecting the public from having to pay anything.
Cool.
And it's all on that class action suit for a couple of them that are out there to pay for this.
Okay. And then the money, if they did win, earmarked toward anything as far as nothing, so maybe for a rehab or, I mean, it's something that.
I don't want to say completely that it couldn't be earmarked. It depends on if this is a lot of way down the road. But
Right.
You could see settlements or settlement agreements that require percentages or parts of or the whole amount of any piece that's recovered would be dedicated for the specific purpose. Maybe funding a rehabilitation center or something like that. Or you could, it would all come into the general fund and just be dealt with that way. It really depends on the negotiation, the ultimate negotiation, or if it goes to federal court and there's a final responsibility, what the jury will ultimately award.
Okay.
So I don't want to say no, but I don't want to say yes. I give the classic lawyer answer, which is it depends.
Okay. That's cool.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Just one thing, with this opioid litigation, it would likely be consolidated in what's called multi-district litigation in Ohio. There's a federal district court judge that's been appointed to oversee this litigation, and he's committed to moving it very quickly through this process, and I realize that's a relative term, okay, but, and of course the surrounding communities. West Virginia, of course, has been very hard hit by the opioid epidemic, and the manufacturers and distributors of these opioids, there are some pretty big smoking guns here as far as suspicious activity, reports they were supposed to file and so on, and the millions and millions and millions and millions of pills that come into West Virginia. So this is something that's greatly affected our city, our first responders, a lot of people, and it certainly needs pursued.
And then to be fair, in the presentation, there were multiple law firms coming from all across the country. They were all very well qualified. But ultimately, the distinction between the two of them was, one believed that the case could only be pursued in federal court, and their strategy was to deal with it that way. The other lawyers, another group, believed that the best strategy was to have the case pursued or remanded back to state court. those lawyers, some of the lawyers didn't think that was possible, but at this point, one of the cases has been remanded to state court, and I guess the theory being that local court is going to be more sympathetic to the client than a federal court.
My understanding, Mayor, is that that will be an issue that will be presented to council to make a decision as to what type of representation we undertake in moving forward.
There were very few discrepancies or differences between the firms that made the presentation. One issue that Northwest brought up is one. The other one was they were all contingency based. One of the firms wanted expenses out of the award if any were given. There's just 2 or 3 particular things that need to be sorted out. But the key is the fact that, they are large law firms with lots of resources, and I believe that any of them would do an excellent job. So, because Parkersburg chose one, Wood County chose one, so there is no clear-cut choice, so we'll determine that. But at any rate, any further discussion? All those in favor of the resolution authorizing the city of Vienna to join the opioid litigation, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay? That concludes our agenda for this evening. We move on to council comments, and Mr. Conley.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing I wanted to talk about just a little bit was the city's hiring practices and procedures, if you would. In the past 5 years, the city's made approximately 37 new hires. The employment level has gone from approximately 61 to 81. Payroll and related costs have gone up in the last 3 budget cycles in excess of $1 million. All of this while our population has declined. All of this after we've spent millions of dollars on things like the 60th Street facility and digital water meters that was supposed to increase efficiencies and lower cost. For these reasons, I'm proposing that all new hires in each department be done only with council approval. And I'd like to have this proposal, where it be through an ordinance or whatever means it be necessary, to be placed as a new business item on the agenda of the next council meeting for discussion and approval. Does that need to be an ordinance, or is that something that could be on the agenda?
It would be a policy change, so I'm going to guess. Whatever it takes, Roger, we'll make that determination. But the next council meeting is April 12th.
Thank you. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the public forum and council comments in general. And there again, I'm not sure if this would be through an ordinance or what, but I would like to propose an ordinance giving all council members the opportunity to make council comments at the end of each council meeting without being placed on the agenda and without stating the topic of discussion. Would also like for this ordinance to allow for a public forum, giving citizens the opportunity to speak to council by simply signing a sign-in sheet prior to the meeting, with each person given up to 5 minutes to speak, with a public forum not to exceed 30 minutes. I would like to see this ordinance also placed as a new business item on the agenda of the next council meeting for consideration and a potential vote for approval.
April 12th.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, sir. Did you get all those? Got it? Okay, good. All right. That concludes our agenda for this evening. The next council meeting will be a regular council session held on April the 12th at 7 p.m. Norm, thank you very much for everything. You don't have to do this anymore. I know you hate that.
Actually, I do have one comment, and this goes to Norm Harris. In addition to the service that he provided the city of Vienna that was a part of his job, over the years that Norm Harris has served Vienna, I think the hours are countless that he's volunteered, uncompensated time to the rec programs, all hours of the day and night, and weekends and holidays too. So once again, I'd really like to thank Norm Harris for his service to City of Vienna.
With that, meeting adjourned.
Things happened a little bit, so I had to make a decision. So I haven't got the receipt. I I just noticed it on my phone today.
Okay.